reinforce the process here, look at what we've gone through, where we hope to get to, especially by the end of today, or at least by next spring. We mapped focal areas. We did that in the last, you saw the maps of the focal areas. A lot of the partners have worked to put together these focal areas and try to figure out the areas that most of where the land trust concentrated, where the partners were, and where there was a lot of help on the ground. So you saw those maps for the focal areas. Now the next step, what's happened after that is we've built a database, and that we're in that process right now. We've put together a model which has looked at criteria for the different types of habitats that would be resilient to climate change, also the types of habitats that protect watersheds and water supplies, and all the different criteria that we think are important for H2H. That model has been developed and is going to be run with all the properties, all the parcels of land in each focal area. That's going to help to limit some of them and to concentrate on those properties that we think are the most important for H2H. Then we get the information from those parcels of who the owner is, and those are the owners that we want to engage in this process. So that comes to the third part here, and that's develop, work to engage targeted landowners. That's what we're starting today. That's what we're learning about today. We're learning about different ways that we can engage landowners. So once we've identified those landowners and we know exactly who they are, we get them to the table or bring them to the table either through a woodland forum, which we'll hear about today, or some other methodology. And then we use strategies, many of which you're going to learn about today, some that may be beyond today that you have to think about. And then we try to use those strategies with the landowner to get them either to steward their land or conserve their land in some way. Now, stewardship can take on a variety of different things. It could be some sort of a backyard bird workshop. It could be a event. Or you could be putting together some sort of a plan on a property, a forestry plan. And that means you might need funding. And so we're going to hear today about some funding opportunities from NRCS and also from the EQIP program, and how you might use those funding sources for a private landowner to actually do some of the plans on their property. So those are some of the stewardship activities. That's kind of the lowest thing that we could possibly do on land. If we take it even further, you're going to get into conservation. And then conservation means we're either conserving land through a conservation easement or some sort of a gift of land in fee. That's what land trusts do. We get conservation easements, we get gifted land, that's what we're all about. That's our ultimate goal in this program as well. It doesn't mean it's going to happen with everybody, but we hope that it will happen with some. We're going to hear about estate planning today and how estate planning can use, somebody can give you a conservation easement or give you a piece of land in their will. It's worked very well for us. We have about 82 parcels of land that we have, and some of them have come in wills, at least in the old days they used to. Nowadays they don't come as often. But and then the other is, as far as cultivation of landowners, you may hear a little bit today, and you'll certainly hear as we go forward in this program about ambassadors. How we can take somebody who has a conservation on their property and use them as an ambassador to bring somebody in and have them actually meet with this person and say, we did it, you can do it, here's how it's done, it's really easy to do, don't worry about it, okay? And so that's a really, really powerful way to engage landowners. This is all about a mentor, kind of mentee thing with landowners working with landowners. It's not about us preaching to landowners. It's about you finding somebody in your area you think is a great ambassador, and having them work with the other landowners to encourage them to do the same thing. That's a really important, powerful part of this program. So then if we're lucky and we get what we want, we might get a conservation easement. That means you might get a landowner to come. You might be working with a landowner and you might want them to talk to somebody else and bring somebody else in that says they know a lot about estate planning. They know a lot about conservation easements and tax deductions. Maybe you want to bring somebody in and have them talk to them about that. Okay, so those are the kinds of things that you can facilitate for a landowner will get them to move to the next step, which is to conserve their land in conservation easement or possibly to some sort of a gift. So that's kind of where we are today. Those are the strategies we're going to work on today. As we move forward with this, we're going to be designing the actual gathering mechanisms, the woods forums, how we actually bring people to the table. But I'll warn you, some of these will work in some areas and they won't work in other areas. So you have to kind of really work this for your landowner. And that's why we're going to do the tele training and the next training that we have, and you're going to hear about it today. There are different types of landowners. Some things work with some things work with others. There are people that live geographically in different areas, and they're very different than the people, the rural populations versus the urban population. So you have to kind of target it toward your population. And that's why you, as partners, are the most important part of this program, because you know the people on the ground. You know the individual landowners that are there. And so that's what we need to take that information. So going forward in this process, you're going to be taking the strategies that you learned today. You're going to be taking the information that you know about the people in your town. You're going to try to categorize those landowners, and then you're going to try to figure out what works with them, what strategies might work with them. So if there's some that you get from today, great. If there are others that you think were not presented today, then those are the ones you have to add to your toolbox.